is
Hi, my name is Ciara. I'm going to be going first. Our company is going to be Chipotle. We're going to be talking about the standard costing. So I first want to introduce Chipotle, basically stating who is Chipotle. Oh, sorry, I couldn't see the slide. I am so sorry. So Chipotle is a company around the nation that it's in the food industry. So my slide is, it engages in the development and operations of classically cooked real food with wholesome ingredients without artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives. It offers a focused menu of burritos, tacos, burrito bowls, salads, prepared using classic cooking methods. And then, so how does Chipotle do both fast and quality operating model that flies in the face of conventional fast food wisdom, both in terms of in-store and company-wide operations? So there's a total of 4 that I kind of want to just pinpoint and go over and kind of dig deep on what each individual one menu. Whereas most fast food restaurants have expensive menus and rely on new introductions of drive sales, Chipotle's very limited menu offers a choice of 4 items only, all of which are used virtually in all of the same ingredients. The food production, both in preparation and assembly, reduces cycle and wait time. So the next one is going to be assembly line, a central aspect of Chipotle's operation in the assembly line, where a meal is ordered and assembled in front of and with input by the customer. Ingredients are all collected in one area and laid out in the order to allow rapid assembly, with serves quickly and develops developing skills throughout repetition. Sorry. The next one is going to be supply chain and expansion. Chipotle's supply chain also supports and is supported by its business model. In similar fashion, it is a generous labor benefit. Chipotle is able to pay a premium to suppliers to ensure that raw ingredients meet high quality standards. In addition to high prices, suppliers are supported by guaranteed demand as Chipotle continues to grow and expand. The last one would be store ownership. Another unusual feature of Chipotle's broader operating model, compared to competitors, competitors, is that every one of Chipotle's stores is owned and not franchised. This enables the company to maintain much stricter control over operations and corporate culture that ensures that food with integrity is equally realized across each and every store. So just to kind of sum up who Chipotle is, it is very clear that the founder, Steve Ellis, has founded a winning combination in Chipotle with a business and an operating model that reinforce and elevate one another. As it approaches its 13th year and 2,000 store openings, Chipotle will continue to lead the fast casual movement to the delight of investors and launch goers alike. And that is basically who Chipotle is as a company.
Hi everyone, my name is Marsha and I will be covering standard costing. So standard costing involves calculating the amount of resources required to produce 1 unit of product with associated resources such as material, labor, indirect costs. All of that is totaled and it is used to determine the cost per unit. Types of standard costing are absorption costing, marginal costing, activity-based costing, and various others. I shouldn't say types of, it's more than likely, or more beneficial to state that these costings can be used with standard costing. So standard costing is used with these other costing methods to figure out the costs that are associated with making 1 unit. Marginal costing, for example, includes variable costing only along with the standard costs. ACC costing involves direct costs, indirect costs, and uses cost drivers to determine the cost to make a single unit. Standard costing is useful for planning, control, and making decisions. And planning using standards help forecast what resources will be required. So also control compares actual results to standards to help identify where actions is required. We will do this with Chipotle. In addition, standard costing helps managers determine the likely cause of the results of their decisions. Here is an example of a typical way that standard costing is used. It is used for cost control, resource planning, cost estimation, and cost budgeting. The overall goal is to reduce costs and to maximize profits for shareholders. So the restaurant industry uses the 30-30-30-10 expense profit model, which is as follows: 30% revenue to COGS, which is cost of goods sold, 30% to labor, 30% to operating expenses, and 10% net profit. From 2017 to 2019, compared to the industry standard, Chipotle stayed under the 90% range for direct, indirect, fixed, and variable costs as it relates to restaurant operations. But they are over budget in the food, beverage, and packaging industry, which is eating into their profit margins. If you look below, their net income divided by their revenue only yields 6% in 2019. It was even less in 2018 and 2017 at 4%. So the industry standard is 10%. So their profit margins need some work. Skipped it. Okay. Chipotle may decide to examine this a bit further and use the ABC costing method along with standard costing to see where the negative outcomes are using variance. So the variance is the difference between actual costs versus standard costs. If the actual cost is higher than the standard cost, profits are lower. This is a negative outcome and leaves room for improvement. If the actual cost is less than the standard cost and profits are higher, this is a positive outcome. In standard costing, variance is used to determine where changes need to be made for efficient use of resources. The main goal for Chipotle is to compare their performance to the industry standard and take actions to reduce actual costs compared to standard costs associated with their industry. And I'm going to turn it over to Toni.
Yes, my name is Toni, and for the most part, I'll be talking about the background. I am going to touch a little bit on the standard costing that Chipotle uses, or that its needs for it. It uses it because due to low and revolving inventory standard costing, it would be the most effective and efficient way for them to do their inventory. Their costs, their overhead costs are typically about the same. So standard costing would, be the best costing to use. And budget-wise, standard costing, it should be, you know, pretty accurate, just because of their costs don't really change very much. The next slide, there we go. Actually, this is the history that I thought was quite interesting. It was founded by Steve Ellis in 1993. And by 1998, he opened his first restaurant outside of Colorado into Missouri. I also found it very interesting that in 1998, McDonald's actually made a minority investment in the company. And then by 2008, he had branched out into the Toronto, Canada. And by 2018, he had 33 locations outside of the United States. However, after some legal issues and things like that in 2020, Ellis left the company, resigned as chairman, and no longer participated on the board of directors. Chipotle's mission statement was food with integrity. He had a belief that there was a connection between how food is raised, how it's prepared, and how it tastes. He thought real is better. It's better for you, better for people, and better for the planet. The values that Chipotle had, or probably, well, still has, is a commitment to better food, healthier food, the better ingredients. You know, they really work with farms to make sure that their meat and their vegetables are, you know, pesticide free and steroid free, and basically just trying to give the best to the customer. They have a very limited menu in many standards. Basically, it's burritos, bowls, tacos, salads, those types of things. They do prepare most of the food right at the restaurant, except for a couple items that they do have at their main office or their main kitchen in Chicago. I found it very interesting that none of the restaurants have freezers, microwave ovens, or can openers. Again, it goes back to fresh foods. As pointed out earlier, they don't have artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. And as of 2015, they don't even use genetically modified corn, and soybeans, which I didn't even know was a thing until I read this. In 20, there we go. Where are you at? Can you go back a couple? There, oh, you're jumping around here.
Do you want legal issues or fun facts? Those are the only two left.
Yeah, the legal issues is fine. In 2010, they had, it was a big thing. I'm sure most of you seen it on the news. They did have some problems with immigration and the fact that many of their employees were using fraudulent documents and weren't actually eligible to work. They did eventually get that all worked out, but it was a big criminal investigation, and it caused a lot of problems, including making their stocks drop for a little while. And then in 2015, they had a huge E. coli outbreak in many of their restaurants in many of the states. And it literally caused them to shut down for a little bit, clean all their stores, retrain all their employees on the proper handling of food. And again, it caused their stock to drop for a little while. I do think that, they finally made it back, but it was negative publicity that really affected them and their overall projection. So, but they bounced back. So that's all good. And then I did find some fun facts, or what I call fun facts. I always like to do those. It was actually, I'm not sure if I'm even going to pronounce the name right, but the name Chipotle comes from, I don't even know how to pronounce, Nahadi, which is the name for smoked and dried jalapeno chili pepper. It was the first, I also found it interesting that it was the first chain of fast casual dining establishment. And as also mentioned earlier, it's very interesting to me that it's company owned rather than franchise owned, which is what the majority of their competitors are. And I think it's very interesting that one of the first national restaurant brands to commit to goals on local and organic produce. Unfortunately, most restaurants do not get it local or organic. So I thought that was an interesting fact too. I think that is the end of our of the whole thing, if I'm not mistaken.
I'd like to do a little conclusion. So overall standard costing is a way to control costs, to plan and to budget. Chipotle reported 11.6% increase to their total revenue in 2021. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find an annual report for 2020 and 2021. However, with the increase, there's also increases in their variable costs and probably direct labor and so forth. It didn't report any increase in profits, although there probably is some. I think Chipotle has been working diligently to work towards at least getting a 10% profit margin. And overall, I think standard costing versus actual costs is a way to gauge how well a restaurant is doing. In this case, of course, industry standards vary, and also the type of food that's being served. So if a typical, steakhouse that has high-end steaks would typically make less or pay more on cost of goods, 40% or so. A regular restaurant is around 30% and so forth. And then you have like pizzerias and these other places that actually have lower direct costs associated with them. So overall, standard costing is a way to kind of find the problem areas and find a way to reduce costs or to be more efficient.
Correct. And I feel like Chipotle as an overall, they did that completely. And with a lot of the odds being against them, they were able to manage, and like you said, standard cost, they applied that to their company as a whole and reevaluated a lot of the aspects they were doing to keep, their plan and to stick with budget and to increase and expand. And so.
Toni, do you have anything to add?
No, not really.
Okay, ladies, I think we're done. Thank you.
Alrighty, well, thank you.
Thank you for doing this.